Hello, welcome to the second batch of Let's Play for COMP3218 Computer Design. So, what are we doing? We are doing game design. Thank you. I'm Adrian Chapman, a lecturer on the course, and with me are...
I'm Tom Blount, I'm another lecturer on the course.
And I'm Max, I'm a demonstrator on the course.
Excellent. So we're doing coursework 3, and Tom, can you explain what the students were asked to do?
Yeah, so this coursework was all about innovation in game design. So we wanted our students to make us yet another small game prototype, and this time using one of a number of different innovations. So they could use procedurally generated content, they could use adaptivity in the game, they could use a novel input method, or is there one other that I'm forgetting? Oh, that was it. Location-aware games. There we go. So they were the 4 innovations we could do. And the first game, I think, is a procedural generation game. So this one is called Theseus and the Cyclops. Okay, here we go. So I think we skipped the actual generation part there. So they did show me in the expo they can actually sort of have a debug log of the way they generate the maze, which is kind of nice. They can sort of see everything sort of appearing as it's generated.
Right.
So there we go. We've got some tutorial text at the start.
And
good.
There's a map as graphics on the wall. I enjoy that.
Yep. So so there are certain different types of room, and they're all linked with corridors. Oh, okay.
Ah!
There's okay.
Oh, I love the music. Well done.
In fact, yeah. If you just turn that down just a little bit. So I was going to start talking about how some of the rooms have clues in, and they make sure you always start in a room with a clue in, so you've got some idea of what you need to do. So yeah, from the title you can tell this is based on the legend of Theseus and the Minotaur, but they couldn't find a Minotaur asset, so we got Cyclopses instead. Oh, there he is. Oh, I'm back here
There's
again.
our map.
Let's try this way instead. So there are certain items we can find that will make our life easier. But right now we're just trying to avoid that, try to go in this way. Trying to avoid that Minotaur. Not Minotaur.
Cyclops.
Yeah. And there are also different types of Cyclops. So there's the red one that we've got chasing us, which I think is the closest to the standard one. There is a blue one that has sort of a charge attack, and there's a yellow one that will always follow your movements exactly. Aha, here we go. So we found another room. So it's E to open. This one's got some rope, so that might come in handy later. In fact, I think we can place
Can we take the gold too?
No, we can't take the gold.
Oh.
Okay, we've got a chest over here. Stackable stones.
Excellent. And is that a picture next to us? Not possible to take it. Nope.
No,
Okay.
no. But what we can do is, if we press 2, and then we can press F to use the stackable stones, we can look over the walls.
Mm-hmm.
So we're on a little pile now. So we can't stay up here for long, but where do we want to go? Oh no. So let's try... Whoa, not that way. Just quick, use the rope.
I enjoy that the music gives us a hint that he's around.
So when I played this in the expo, one of the first items I found was the string, which lets you leave a little trail behind you, which made it a lot easier. Oh, some more rope. So now we can put down another trap if he's behind us. But the ultimate goal is to find a room with a trap in it, and then we can lure the Cyclops into the trap. So we've got a key.
So as part of either the course notes or what we learned in the expo, the maze itself is generated on the fly, I believe you said.
Yeah, so they have I think a set number of rooms. So each room has a sort of a certain item in it.
Okay.
They generate those rooms, and then they sort of link them with corridors, and they make sure there's no loops or anything like that. Oh no, got the bait. Oh, I died.
Oh, but you died.
Ah, okay, so the resolution doesn't seem to quite work as we're recording it. However, so in the expo they showed off that when you die, they sort of have a series of little tips sort of
right.
for your next playthrough. Press
enter, I believe.
R to retry, enter to... Ah, there we go. So this is the main screen, so we can press space to jump straight into it, or we can... can't see what key it is. R to see. Yeah, so you can see the procedural generation happening.
Oh,
there.
I actually really like this.
So they've got all the different rooms, and then they sort of join them together with the corridors. However, so you can see there you've got one really, really, really long corridor. And I think they sort of try and fill in those gaps to make the maze a little bit more interesting.
Mm.
But I'm sort of curious how they set sort of the layout of the room. So whether they sort of always make sure that certain ones are next to each other or certain ones are far apart, for example. So this does take a lot longer than if you just generate it on the fly. So
I think this is excellent, like well done on showing us how the generation is performed.
So this time we're in a clue room again, but we've got a different... Oh, that seems unfair. So in terms of quality, this is a really nicely put together game, right?
It's a very nicely put together game. It's got music, it's got a lot of nice visuals. It even has, I mean, just nice game mechanics.
Right.
They've thought it through.
So even like the inventory system, you can actually stack the...
Is that a pit?
So I think they're supposed to be spikes. So I think that may just be because we're running in the Unity build. They haven't quite rendered properly. But the idea is to lure the Cyclops onto the trap with the bait and the lever and the key and all that stuff. Okay. But yeah, so like they've got a lot of stuff going sort of together. They've got like the inventory system, they've got the actual generation of the maze, like you say, they've got the music, they've got the sort of atmospheric stuff. I think that's really, really nice.
Yeah. They have a health warning. I love that the music tells us that we're getting close to the Minotaur, or Cyclops.
So in terms of the brief.
Right. So the brief itself, right? They've used procedural generation to create the maze. It is unclear whether it's unclear whether there's been real thought of that procedural generation to make sure that certain rooms are I mean, the rooms are always connected, right? And they don't do loops in the corridors.
They always make sure that everything's connected.
So there's that at a minimum. Quality-wise, I guess brief-wise, is there anything else on the brief we'd like to say? I think they did a fine job of using it.
And what's the last category is design, right?
Yeah. Have they designed an interesting and fun game? I think that I already appreciate that there are various mechanics that play together in a reasonable way. You collect pieces.
I'm not sure how super useful those stones are, because it's quite difficult to sort of see
all around. Yeah, to your overall map. I mean, if anything, that might be the one thing that's missing is some of these mazes seem to have generated really difficult mazes, right? And knowing where you are in them, I'm already lost. You were saying that there in some room there's a string, so you could lay a path. Is that?
Yeah. So sort of like the Legend of Theseus.
Sure.
One of these chests will contain. Maybe it's this one. Oh, I've got the key, so I can use the key. F to use the key, then E to open the chest. So it's a bit odd that you've got E and F as action keys. But okay, in fact, so now I think we have everything we need to there's
your string.
So if I press F, we'll start laying a trail. But what we really need is to find our way back to that trap. Oh, never mind.
Sorry, I don't do so well with the pop them out and scare you kind of games, but yeah, I think overall it's a very nice game. The design elements fit together nicely. It's good quality, and they filled the brief.
Yeah. Okay, should we move on to the next game?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, next game is I think it's Untitled Ghost Game. So slightly paradoxical title, but here we go. So the innovation they've used for this game is input method. So this game uses a novel input method. It uses sound as the primary control. So you're a ghost, scare some people with ghost sounds.
Let's do that tutorial.
So they've got a tutorial, which is really nice. They've clearly learnt the lessons from the first coursework. So WASD to move, vary your pitch. The spookometer will tell you how spooky you are. So there's our spookometer, spookometer.
Spookometer.
There we go, the
Definitely
spookometer. And we've got pitch and volume in the top left. So first we have to make our victims tense with quiet spooks, and then we have to make them fear us with loud spooks. If we do loud spooks before quiet spooks, then they have a heart attack and they die.
Okay.
So
we're going to test this. Are you
going
ready?
to try and make them tense.
All right. Ooh. That volume is still not moving for me.
There we go. So we've successfully spooked a nun. Now we have to do it really loudly. So hang on. So if you're listening to this in headphones, you might want to just take them out for a second. Okay, score 1. Excellent. So our uncle doesn't like us spooking nuns.
Got it.
So we have to avoid our uncle because we've been spooking illegally. So we have to go and spook people. So the thing is, I'm a bit reluctant to just constantly yell at the microphone all the way through this video. So I may just sort of go through and play this
without spooking.
Without spooking,
I
and just sort of
understand.
chat about some other.
We're accidentally spooking that one.
Yeah, just from talking, because the pitch and volume are changing.
If you're starting to hear voices, it's going to be scary as well.
That's right.
Yeah, so
it
if
is
you just hear suddenly people discussing coursework over your shoulder.
How frightening is that, really?
Oh, there we go. So
And now we can really scare her. I mean, aren't you frightened when you get your coursework grades back?
So in terms of quality, I think this is quite nice.
I think it's very sweet
there we
different
go.
change in the input. Oh, we've gotten into.
Sorry, avoid our uncle. So we can go through walls because we're a ghost, which makes sense.
And
Oh no!
oh, so she's not scared anymore. She went down, didn't she?
Yeah. But yeah, in terms of quality, it's actually really nicely put together. We've got like a tutorial. We've got a bunch of different sort of like introductions to the actual.
Yeah.
What we need to do. I think maybe some of the explanation could have been a little bit more clear about. You need to sort of quietly spook them first and then loudly spook them.
Right. And then now we can go through and actually, we've never gotten past these two scared people. If you go closer to one of them, please.
Mm-hmm.
And she's getting unscared right now, but we can increase that. But now,
So if we
Okay.
go louder.
No. There we go. There we go. Come on. More spooks. There we go.
Hey, we finally did it. Okay.
So they're spooked. They run
Now-
away. We get a point.
and we get a score of 1. Okay, so we've tested that basically it goes through.
Can we try killing them?
Okay, then you need to loudly spook one without quietly spooking them is the trick. So
Get away from Uncle for a minute.
So I did manage to do this. There you go. There you go. You've spooked a nun. You've lost a point.
Oh, sweet. So what
Excellent.
happens if you get caught by your uncle?
I think you just reset. I mean, let's try that. So, yeah, we just get reset to the start.
Okay.
Excellent. So I actually really enjoy, just looking at the way the games were put together. I enjoy that they've thought through that the nuns have to go through this maze. We can cross through walls. The uncle is kind of forcing us to change where we are in terms of the map, and making choices of whether to keep spooking and then do big spooks. What are the phases here?
Quiet spooks and
Quiet
loud
spooks and loud spooks.
Which is a good point, actually. I'm not sure what effect the pitch has.
Yeah.
So we definitely have that pitch meter, and I think they mentioned it in the tutorial, but I don't know if they explicitly have told us what it does.
No.
So I know another thing is the closer we get to the nuns, the louder they perceive us as being,
Right.
which makes sense.
Yeah. So here, if we actually just talked around a little bit, I don't seem to, just with my voice, yeah.
Perhaps you've got
There
a
we-
deep voice.
Yeah. And then what happens now if we now see it's definitely there's some impact of pitch on this.
Yeah.
But you're right, that part is actually not clear.
So also the spookometer is just a number, and I'm not so I'm mostly paying attention to the two
Slidey bars.
to the two slidey bars on the left rather than the
Agreed.
spookometer.
Agreed. Now, as a part of a tutorial, that spookometer might help so that you could, especially if it was closer to those bars, that you could say,
So like try
they appreciate volume or pitch in this way. But as it is in the game, it's both too spread out from pitch and volume, and I'm not paying attention to it either.
Yeah, I think so. It'd be nice. So there's definitely scope for extending this further with sort of like nuns that are particularly afraid of high noises
Yes.
versus nuns that are particularly
Yes.
afraid of like low noises.
As indicated by the color of their habit or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But otherwise, I think it's really nicely put together. And in terms of briefs, they definitely have that innovation in there.
Yes.
It's difficult to imagine this game.
Alright, we can take all three out. Come on.
Come on, let's go get
alright.
them! Woo! Oh, we only got one.
No, we got two. It's fine.
Oh, two. Okay.
All right, let's run away from Uncle. So the
But
nuns,
we don't have any score.
that's because they haven't left yet. But they are running away, I think. So there we go. Chase them all the way out because they all run. So even the fact that they have pathing to go to the door is a nice touch.
It is.
Rather than just instantly disappearing.
So what do we think quality-wise on this game? We've talked about brief.
We talked about
Yeah.
quality a bit as well.
Yeah.
It's a nicely put
It
together
is
game.
very nice put together.
There's not a huge amount of sort of challenge there. It's quite trivial to avoid Uncle. I guess most of the challenge comes from sort of modulating the pitch so you don't accidentally kill the nuns.
Yes.
Yeah, it maybe be nice if there was a little more to it. Right now it feels a bit like just sort of a toy to show off this innovation rather than a game using the innovation. But I think still, they've still done a good job with it.
Yes, I agree. Excellent. Shall we move on to the next game?
Okay, let's move on. Okay, our next game is Dungeon Run. And I'm not sure what the innovation for this one is, but I suspect it might be procedural generation. So let's hit start. We are alone. Life is dull. You seek adventure. One day you find a hole in the ground. Well, that screams adventure to me.
It does. Let's go jump in it.
So we are going to explore this dungeon. The deeper you go, the more challenging the... Oh, okay, so maybe it's adaptive then. So in fact,
You've got the course notes.
It's called procedural generation.
I believe the rooms or the map in this is procedurally generated.
Did you see this one in the expo?
I did.
Okay, so we've got move and shoot controls. So again, tutorialized very nicely. So shoot. So our score is dropping. I don't know why, but so hang on. So what's this? This is differently coloured.
Yes, they are blocks. You can, if I remember properly, you can find keys to open doors, but they also so that's a key to get another door. Ooh.
Okay, different enemy types.
So now you can open it again. And those, if they are just blocks, they won't move. It's only if there's a passage behind you.
So you get a higher score the quicker you finish the level.
I see. Oh, lost half a heart. So it's very sort of Binding of Isaac is the vibe I'm getting from this. So, in terms of the procedural generation, do they sort of describe how they come up with the routes?
It places the rooms in random position on the grid, starting with the vital room, such as the starting room and the boss room. It joins every room with a path except the boss room and the starting room, since you did not know the levels. The levels to be sure. And then calculates the minimum spanning tree using a variation of Kruskal's algorithm. The algorithm then binds this planned out dungeon with this.
There's your boss room.
If it satisfies all of the necessary criteria, or restarts itself if it does not.
Okay, so I also don't know how I'm supposed to use this potion that I've got.
I think it just increased your heart, didn't it?
No, well, I don't know. It's there in the top right.
Oh, so it is.
And now I've got 0 score, so even if I beat the boss, I get nothing. Which seems a bit of a shame. Okay, so the procedural generation, they have a set of rooms that they then sort of tie together.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we can go down to the next level.
Try using your mouse on one of the potions, either the pea shoot or the potion. No.
Nope.
Mm.
Let's see if I can kill them from outside. No, so I have to be in the room to actually deal damage to it. Which seems interesting.
Mm.
I mean, it's, I guess, a good way of making sure you can't cheese the AI, but it's a little bit, what's the word, unintuitive, perhaps.
The items are generated procedurally, well, where they are.
Okay, so I've picked up a machine gun of some kind, I guess.
And you've put down your pea shooter.
That makes sense. Oh, I'm still losing score, so let's backtrack all the way through here. Ah, okay, so you auto use the potion just when you're low on health, I see. So this was a dead end. So in terms of quality, it is a nicely put together game.
It is.
So some of the controls are maybe a little bit intuitive, like having to sort of enter the room to trigger the monsters rather than just being able to snipe them from outside. But otherwise, like, I can see why they've done it, and it still sort of actually plays quite well. The controls are quite tight. Okay, so this time we've got some boots. So I'll see if I can lure him away from those. Though it looks like, again, I'm going to end up with 0 score overall. So even though I'm on level
2.
Well, I'm about to be on level 3. I'm going to have still 0 points to show for it.
Well, now you've got these boots, you can hopefully speed around.
That's a good point. So yeah, maybe I'm a little bit worried of running out of health. But yeah, so the rooms sort of seem to follow this sort of pattern. A lot of them have this sort of 2 bats and the sort of cross shape,
Yep.
2 skeletons.
They've
Oh,
used
straight
the
for the
same-
boss.
Oh, do you want more boots?
See, this is the thing. It doesn't really feel like there's much reason to have any of these other rooms, though. I'm not getting
Yes.
score for killing these things. I'm not really getting items for most of them.
And indeed,
It's just wasting my time.
the rooms in these last 3 layers have been, at least in the grid, in exactly the same places. There have been a couple different passages, but otherwise they've been in the same place. Which is uninteresting. So you know the boss is over to the left,
Yeah.
down.
It does say it places them.
So I suspect the boss won't always be there.
It does
but
the boss room and the starting room first.
Okay.
randomly.
Randomly. Okay, so that part is random, because according to those first 3 that we saw, they were all the same.
Another pea shooter. So there's.
It would be nice to know how to actively use the things in your inventory.
I think they're used automatically.
Mm.
It just that wasn't super clear to start with. So this is a very long corridor. So it looks like there's probably some validation of sort of making sure that all the rooms are joined up with corridors. However, the fact that they're generating pea shooters, for example, on the first level when that's the weapon I start with, is maybe a sign that they haven't sort of really considered sort of doing some interesting things with the generation of like the items versus the enemies.
Mm-hmm. And have some relationship between the 2.
Yeah. So, for example, so if you're generating a room full of these blue enemies that split into tiny enemies, generate a room before that has a particular type of weapon that would be useful for
Yes.
fighting those, or something along those lines. But otherwise, I mean, yep, there's definitely evidence that it's procedurally generated. We've got
Whoop.
Get that health.
It also seems so the fact that your score goes down, right, and it's purely a time-based game, but there's no way for you to learn the map.
Yeah.
Right.
So
So it feels like you're actually being penalized for something you actually have no control over.
that's the thing. It almost feels like the procedural generation is sort of working against that element of it.
Exactly. And so you'd wonder if, I mean, perfectly fine procedurally generate a map, but then the scoring mechanism, or how you win, like, fine, you beat the boss, or you've collected enough of the things into your inventory and beat the boss, and that's how your score is generated. Having the score purely based on time feels like it's negatively impacting you.
That's the thing. I can see them making the argument that, oh, well, because it's procedurally generated, you have to constantly sort of
Move.
you have to
Yeah.
you have to constantly move, and you can't just learn the map. But then there's not a lot of improvement in skill that you can do other than sort of
Just run around fast.
And be lucky, hopefully.
yeah.
And in fact, if you procedurally generate this map if the random map is
So if it happens,
poor, you could be running around these long corridors and just use up your time, and it's no skill whatsoever.
Just like them.
Yeah, just
You
like
went
you've
all the
done
way to the
now.
right.
and it was a dead end.
Yeah.
And I don't think there was even like a treasure at the end of it. There were
No,
just some
exactly.
enemies.
It was just a thing, and there went your time. Ooh,
Okay. So I like that they've got a load of different weapons.
I do too.
Like that is a nice touch. It'd just be nice if they'd sort of their procedural generation had sort of took into account some of the monsters that you would be fighting in there.
And why you would want them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, should we move on?
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay, last game for this batch is Cube Apocalypse. So again, we've got a sort of instruction screen telling us what we need to do. So movement arrow keys. How long can we last? Dodge meteors and craters while carefully maneuvering through mazes to make it to the blue exit point. Falling through a crater takes you to a harder level, with faster meteors, which you can escape by reaching 5 exit points in your current level. Falling through 3 craters will kill you. That already seems quite complex.
It does. I'm not sure I can remember that.
Really, it feels like you could take away a lot of this complexity by saying crater's bad, exit's good.
Yes, and a health bar so that, yeah.
Okay, so...
Whoa!
Whoa, okay. I don't know what happened there.
I think that might have been a meteor.
Okay.
Ah!
Okay, so it changes colour. That's kind of interesting. Okay, there's the exit, I see. So let's go for that. Game over.
Game over.
I'm not sure what happened there.
Now, interestingly, I actually really enjoy... I enjoyed the theme of this game once we got going. I think the only real negative on this one that I've, from an initial get-go, is those meteors are coming in way too fast to really respond to.
Yeah.
Or plan around, right? There's no strategery. Yes, that was a US joke. There's no strategic plan for how you can avoid something that's falling that fast and then get around the other craters.
So I think every time I've been hit by a meteor, it's because it's fallen directly on top of me.
Yes, yes.
Also,
but this is kind of fun. No?
I don't know.
I'm
right now I'm not super convinced.
Because
But
I just want to push left and go straight there, and then if I get hit...
see, there,
So-
I don't... Why did I...
Why did you just game over?
It didn't look like you got hit at all.
Maybe
And
time?
look at how many meteors there are now.
Yes,
Well, no, time's going up.
time is going up. What did the course notes say on this game? So let's go back to the initial design. So
it's an infinite runner, having the cube faces quasi-random generated, is a large adventurers, allows for infinite gameplay, and gives you a reason to keep coming back to the game. If the surface of the world or predefined levels, this user could eventually learn some tricks and ruin the immersiveness. Although I think that would be a good thing to sort of...
So my time's gone up. I don't think it's reset the time.
It hasn't reset the timer.
So they've got how they procedurally generate everything.
So they procedurally generate the obstacles and when the meteors come in? Is that essentially it?
It's quite long.
Okay.
They've like written their algorithm
Right.
in English. Yeah, so they've got 2 different sort of map and then meteors.
I think you fell
Okay,
into
that
a
one was
there.
definitely me.
Yeah.
And then it just explains how the trees and bushes are random, and meteor generation are random. Well, meteor generation adapt based on game state. Meteor generation speeds up if the user spends too long on a specific face. The initial meteor generation is also based on how many times the user has fallen through the meteor crater. But it means you get hit by a meteor and then you get taken to a harder level.
Yeah, that seems a bit...
So they encourage you to do good, which is like... Right.
So also there's a tree in front of the exit. So they've not... And I think going off the side of the exit seems to put me in a harder level as well. So the fact that they've not validated that they don't block off
So
the
if you-
exit doesn't...
Could you
You
go...
have to go through the middle.
Yeah,
It looks that way.
go off the side now. Go back where you came from instead of to the blue.
If I go off the side of that blue one... Okay, so that seems to work. But if I go off the side this way...
Yeah, does it go back?
No, you can't.
Okay.
So something seemed to go a bit weird there, because I definitely went through that exit, unless I got hit by a meteor exactly as I went through it. But the fact that we can't even tell says
Yes.
that something's a little bit off. See, like there's a
Yes.
meteor and a tree
And a tree,
thing.
and
So
now
there's
it's a
now,
possibility.
yeah. Unless I can sort of sneak this way. Nope.
Nope.
What?
So they have essentially created an unwinnable level portion at this point.
I mean, just the fact that it gets harder as... Like, if you're struggling, it gets harder seems to be a really
Yes.
A really
Frustrating.
bad design choice.
Frustrating design. So then the next question, if we go all the way very back to our first coursework on this, why would I play the game? What are the mechanics and how do they create an interesting dynamic? in this. I mean, I will admit that this calls to some of my, I do love the games that are slightly mindless and puzzle solving, and this is close. But is that enough?
But the
Why do I want to keep doing this?
I feel like the rotating cube adds nothing to it. Which sucks.
I think the rotating cube is as in the player or the levels.
The level.
I think that's mostly just a sort of a visual nicety rather than it being sort of integral to the thing. Like it's mazes and meteors. Even that on an easy level, that looked like a lot of.
Yes.
So if I'm
maze.
I'm just gonna sit here and sort of let these obstacles appear. See, there definitely seems to be parts where we're getting shunted to a harder level and we haven't been hit by a meteor.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if that's... And then, yeah, it just gets absolutely ridiculous. Look at that. And the thing is, you can tell from this end screen that there's no real validation on where the meteors hit. So it'd be very easy, based on the generation of the obstacles and the meteors, to, like, if you get very unlucky, just a single meteor could block you off from the exit.
Completely from the exit. So there's some more thought that needs to go into how they're using the procedural generation within their game. And I think also a little bit of why, right? What makes this an interesting and playable game?
It's
really playable.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's okay. So overall, quality-wise, it is definitely playable. There definitely seems to be a lack of feedback about why we've lost, and there is a couple of glitches, like with the timer at the top. So I'm not sure if I am running out of time and it's just the timer's displaying wrong, or if it's nothing to do with that whatsoever.
But the procedural generation is just the trees.
What about the meteors? Is that
okay, so I went through enough exits there that I'm now on an easier level. So I've proved that I can beat a harder level, and it puts me on an easier level.
Yeah, so there's some misunderstanding or lack of why would you do that to a player who, once they've gained the skills, would want to practice harder skills. And for someone like myself who really struggles usually, I would get very frustrated with that and want an easier level.
So it's just randomly generated bushes, vertical bushes and horizontal bushes and trees. And it won't place them more than 2 next to each other, it says.
That looks like it's a lot more than 2 next to each
Although
other.
I think they're probably taking the center of the bush. It says here, check the distance between the current object being generated and the other previously generated objects. If the distance is less than 2 from the X or Y, then do not generate the game object, else generate the tree or whatever.
Okay, so it sounds like they have tried to put in some thought about making sure there are no dead ends or sort of big walls, which is good, but again, here we've got...
I suppose if that blue looks like... It's like 3 blocks wide, so possibly if they have that rule of 2 things, then a gate of 3 blocks wide should, until you gets hit by a meteor, or near a meteor, should, be okay. The hard part comes in when they're dropping the meteors, that given that there could be 2 bushes there, and a poor meteor placement, you could possibly never get to your gate.
I think also the meteors are just a bit too fast for it to feel fair as a player. So what would be nice is if there was some sort of like a shadow under the meteor. So
yes, you know where it's coming. That would be very nice, actually.
Or it doesn't immediately destroy that block and you can't go over it again.
Yeah.
So you have to avoid it, but now you have to avoid it.
Well, yeah, even if it's just it falls and creates another obstacle, like there's now another rock in the way.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be something. Except for,
but then, of course, you get into the situation of possibly sort of walling off the player and making them stuck.
Right. All right. Shall we?
So I think that's our last game for this batch. That was our last
game for this batch. Well, thank you. Join us again for the next Let's Play.